Time to dive into some technical details, and we're going to start off using Unreal Engine. Now, before we jump into Unreal, I want to make sure that I select a good set of HDRIs. So I'm going to be picking this one, and I'm going to download this in the traditional HDR format, as well as a 16K resolution. Additionally, I will be downloading the RAY HDR format so we can make comparisons inside the engine. Once inside Unreal Engine, I want to make sure that all the ray tracing features are available for the best results. So I'm going to go up top here to Edit and Project Settings, and in the search bar, I'm going to type in ray tracing. Now, use hardware ray tracing should be turned on, as well as support hardware ray tracing, and then ray trace shadows additionally. Now, I want to also check that the RHI is set to DirectX 12. Make sure that is on, otherwise you won't see the ray tracing features working. And last of all, I'm going to look for G-buffer. Now, I'm going to be setting this as high precision normals. This is going to make sure that you have the best and sharpest reflections in your project. All right, one last step, I promise. Let's open up the HDRI and let's disable mipmap settings. What the MipGen streaming does is gradually adapt the image quality based on camera distance. Now we can disable that feature and have it forced to no mipmaps, which will ensure the full resolution regardless of the camera distance. Okay, now with that done, we can go into our Create and go to Lights and select HDRI Backdrop. Now, if you don't see this showing up, what you need to do is go to Edit, Plugins, and then select HDRI and make sure that you have HDRI Backdrop enabled. All right, so let's go back to Create, Lights, HDRI Backdrop, and I'm going to start with the default HDRI. Now, I just want to make sure that I have my location set to 000, just to make things a bit clear. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the HDRI Backdrop and drag and drop one of the cube maps. So I'm going to be selecting the HDR right here. And now we have our HDRI map loaded in Unreal Engine. So things are going good so far. Now let's load in our three elements in the scene here. And I have three meshes here. And as you can see, I go to full screen here. It's showing black. If I go to Path Tracer though, this is showing the correct colors. Now this is due to a Lumen limitation. So there's a few things that we have to do. Let's exit full screen mode and let's search for a post-process volume. So I'm going to go to my Create button, go to Visual Effects and drag and drop a post-process volume in my scene. Now, the first thing that I want to do with the post-process volume is go to the details panel and make sure that infinite extent is checked on. Now let's scroll back up and go to the global illumination section and make sure that Lumen is turned on. As you can see, when I turn it on, we do get some GI bounce on the spheres and getting a bit of colors. Let's now go to the reflections and make sure that we have the Lumen set also. But what we want to do is in the Lumen reflection is actually set the ray lighting mode to hit lighting for reflections to get the best quality reflections. And let's up the max reflection bounce here to 3. And as you can see here on the chrome sphere, I do get some self reflection bounce here. Whereas if I put it back to 1, we don't get as many bounces. All right, so we have our graphics cranked up to the max, but we're still not seeing the accurate colors here. So the trick is to go to the post-process volume and we want to go to the global illumination section. So I'm going to open up that drop down, and within that drop down, I'm going to go to the advanced tab and I'm going to enable skylight leaking. Now the trick here is if you put a value of 1, this is going to enable those colors for you inside of Lumen. Now let's switch to full screen mode and let's compare the results with Path Tracer. And now the results are more consistent between the two. Now to finish things off, I want to compare the traditional HDR versus the RAY HDR exclusive format from CGI. So I'm going to drag and drop the RAY HDR here into the backdrop. And you can see as soon as I put that in, I get accurate sun information from that HDR without me having to put any directional lights in there. Now switching back to the traditional HDR, we do see the noticeable difference between the two because we're not getting that accurate sun position information that the Ray HDR offers. Although this works very good in Past Racer, it's not so much the case in Lumen because it does not simply emit enough rays. So what we can do is go in the scene and create a directional light, and we're going to place this in the scene. And the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to make this movable. I'm going to lower the intensity, and I'm going to match the shadows with what I see with the HDRI. So I'm going to simply rotate the light just a bit and going to match the shadows more or less to what I have to the HDRI. And I'm just going to lower that value to maybe a value of 1 just to have a little bit of light here. And when I switch to Lumen, I do get that light information just very subtly without it affecting my overall image.